Like, like I want to say the day after Halloween, we watched a Christmas movie. I just got the movie that I want to discuss for our Christmas episode, Santa with Muscles,
Awesome.
which is not streaming anywhere, so you'd have to buy a copy.
Okay.
But it's only like $9.
Based on the title, I am 100% willing to do that.
It's Hulk Hogan playing Santa Claus. Like I haven't quite gotten to the point of Christmas music yet, since I get OD'd on that pretty quickly. I usually save that.
Yeah.
But like I try to get myself in the spirit of the season, and it was very weird this year where it snowed on Halloween, where it's like, so it snowed on Halloween, and me and my wife were driving around, and like we were seeing Christmas decorations with snow. It's like, oh, it's literally Nightmare Before Christmas right now. It's weird to see Halloween decorations and tombstones with snow on it. It's like, this is such a weird feeling in my life right now.
That's kind of my memory of Halloween as a kid, though. Like in the Midwest.
Yeah,
before
in
I
the
moved out
Midwest,
here.
anything could happen. It's like, I remember talking to a friend of mine in middle school, in middle school. No, actually, it was more elementary school. In like elementary school, like whenever a holiday came, like our music teachers would teach us like classic songs based on the holiday or whatever. And I remember what's the song Over the River and Through the Woods? Is that what song goes over the river and through the woods?
To grandmother's house we go, the horse knows the way to carry the sleigh through the wide and drifting snow. Oh.
Well, whatever that song, I can't think of the title of it.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's originally a Thanksgiving song.
Oh.
Because they're going to grandmother's house for Thanksgiving.
Ah.
And I was like, oh, I can buy that there's snow on Thanksgiving. Growing up in the Midwest, I can buy that.
Totally.
But then another kid who comes from an area with snow, but it's not quite the Midwest, is like, there's not snow on Thanksgiving. It's like, oh, you haven't lived here very long.
Right? There's snow in September.
There's snow whenever the snow feels like coming. Yet half the time, though, we don't even get fresh snow on Christmas.
Well, and
We get it every other time.
having already watched, God, which one is it? It's the Thanksgiving Peanuts special.
Oh, yeah,
There's
yeah.
only one problem with that. My
What's that?
grandmother lives in a condominium. After they sing that song,
Yeah. I remember seeing that one as a kid. It's just not as prevalent. It's like the Halloween one's great. The Christmas one is great. The Thanksgiving one's there. Once again, Thanksgiving is just not
Right.
an interesting
Yeah.
holiday. We're celebrating the time that we took land from the Native Americans. What's fun about that?
and ignoring the socially problematic element of it, it's like eating. But if you're not eating that well, like with that much passion throughout the year, then you're not living your best life.
Exactly. I actually think my best line, my favorite line about Thanksgiving is from King of the Hill, when Dale asks, "Hey, John Redcorn, did you ever celebrate Thanksgiving?" "We did, once."
Just the worst Thanksgiving ever.
Come on, everybody. We've all got a lot to be thankful about. It doesn't matter if we're in Montana or California or Miami. The important thing is we're all together, so let's have our Thanksgiving dinner. Now, I've got a stick of gum. I was saving it for the airplane, to pop my ears.
Is that the same episode where Hank is trying to teach Bobby how to carve the turkey as this
Yes.
epic thing, and then as Bobby has the electric knife going down and he's halfway through his first cut, and then Hank's trying to prepare him for the stress of game time, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, it's so juicy," and then Bobby
Yes.
that line for me is probably like a couple of Simpsons lines for you, where I will throw out the "oh my god, it's so juicy" line constantly and in any application.
Sometimes I throw out lines from King of the Hill that I forgot were from King of the Hill, because right now me and Amanda are rewatching it,
Okay.
and I'm rewatching it her's watching it for the first time, and it's the episode where Hank ends up owning Sugarfoots because his boss is going through a divorce, and Peggy decides to take it over, and there's a line where she's talking to the staff and she's like, well, what does Wendy's do right? And one character goes, I like them square hamburgers. And every time I go to Wendy's, I say, I like them square cheeseburgers. And I forgot where it came from because I say it so often.
And you see the episode again.
Yeah, it's like, that's what I've been quoting this entire time.
Warning! This movie podcast actually discusses movies. Be aware that it may discuss any of the following elements: endings, surprise twists, unexpected cameos, and all manner of spoilers. If this doesn't appeal to you, why listen to a movie podcast? Without further ado, please enjoy our feature presentation, The Shameless Picture Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Shameless Picture Show. I am Michael Viers, and with me, as always, is a guy who's couple cans short of a six-pack.
Nick Richards.
This is a hard movie to find a good quote from because most of it's like just really dire, like, he is going to come and get you, he is going to kill you. And I'm like, oh god, this movie's not quotable.
Who is the man who's gonna come kill you?
Nick Richards. Though, I will say, this movie is fantastic for all of its background dialogue. There's so many characters just talking off camera that they kept in. That's fantastic.
Nice.
But on today's episode, we'll be discussing a big oversight in Nick's shame list.
I don't know how it happened.
A personal favorite, one that I love so much that when me and Nick did our list of top 10 movies, it was on mine, which actually surprised a couple people. But I guess out of the oeuvre of films that I talk about often, it's not one that it's not one I had talked about as much as I want to, but it's a huge film for me. The Terminator.
Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum.
Don't even get me started. We'll have to talk about all of that. The year is 2029, and humanity lives in fear of Skynet, an artificial intelligence defense network that sends powerful machines out to kill the remnants of mankind. The world is a post-apocalyptic wasteland filled with hunger, strife, and pain. The only beacon of hope is a military leader named John Connor, and Skynet knows this. As their last chance of winning, Skynet sends a cyborg back in time to 1984 to assassinate John Connor's mother, Sarah Connor, and stop him from ever being born. But humanity also has one last hope. A young soldier named Kyle Reese is also sent back. His mission: to protect Sarah Connor at any cost. The Terminator was director James Cameron's second film, but his first huge success, and was the film that helped make Arnold Schwarzenegger a household name. It was praised by critics for its stellar action, cinematography, music, special effects, and the themes behind the film. It also set the world on fire and created a sci-fi fever of what I call realistic science fiction, where the world is grimy and real like ours, but features tech and ideas that are from the future. Terminator would also go on to spawn 5 sequels, comic books, video games, and pretty much anything else you could possibly imagine. And the only reason we have the movie RoboCop is in direct response to Terminator, because Orion Films had such a hit with Terminator. They're like, well, what else can we do? And RoboCop was born. The film was a brainchild of James Cameron after seeing Halloween, but the film's success was a joint venture between producer/co-writer Gale Ann Hurd and director/writer James Cameron. It features a chilling score from Brad Fiedel and stars Linda Hamilton, Michael Biehn, and Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator.
In the 21st century, a weapon will be invented like no other. This weapon will be powerful, versatile, and indestructible. It can't be reasoned with. It can't be bargained with. It will feel no pity, no remorse, no pain, no fear. It will have only one purpose: to return to the present and prevent the future. This weapon will be called the Terminator.
You're dead, honey.
What day is it? The date?
12th May, Thursday.
What year? I'm here to help you. I'm Reese, DN3. S3E19 assigned to protect you. You've been targeted for termination.
Why does it want me? Why me?
Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Terminator. Your future is in its hands.
So I have to, like, out of the gate,
apologize for not having seen it.
Well,
Amanda's like pissed off at you for
I'm pissed off at myself. Again, like, it caught me so off guard. It was such a weird moment. But because I didn't realize that I hadn't seen it, which I'll go into and harp on a little bit, I wasn't watching it from the point of view of I'm going to be talking about this on the show.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to carry this, and I hope I can hold my own as a co-host here on this particular episode. But I might be doing a lot of yeah and nodding because it was very jarring, a very jarring
Then
experience.
I'm glad I decided to rewatch
Yes.
the movie last night. Granted, it's not really like originally when we were going to talk about it, I was like, I don't need to rewatch Terminator. I know Terminator like the back of my hand. But Amanda was, because it was going to be last night. We were going to watch either this movie called Pilgrim that's on Hulu, because there's not many Thanksgiving themed horror films. So I was like, that's a good opportunity. Or she's like, would you rather watch Terminator so you have it fresh in your mind for tomorrow's episode? And I was like, might not be a bad idea to rewatch Terminator. Plus, you don't really need an excuse to watch Terminator.
I probably would have rewatched it, except at the new house, we don't have internet yet. Because they came to hook it up, and they discovered that the cable line to the house had been cut at some point.
That sounds like a horror movie.
So they need to come, like, dig underground cables, and it's going to take, like, 2 or 3 weeks. It also didn't have mail. Like, apparently, and the house was built in 1885. So everyone that has owned the house has had a P.O. box, I'm guessing. Because there's no, like, the mail carrier came and said, are you getting a P.O. box? I'm like, no. Like, I just want you to bring me my mail. They're like, all right, put up a mail box. Like, she gave me a bunch of instructions. I had to put up a friggin' mailbox.
It's kind of crazy to think that, like, if you don't have a mailbox, they won't deliver your mail.
Right?
Huh. I never questioned it. I just figured if you had an address, you can get mail.
Well, at the house I had in Denton, we had a mail...
Denton!
Like, one of those little mail flappies in the door. So we didn't have a mailbox, but we were still on the route.
Fair enough. That's honestly all I figured you need. I figured if you had an address, you can get... I figured if you didn't have a mailbox, they'd just throw it against the door.
Right.
I don't know.
Like Paperboy.
Yeah. That game was hard.
Well,
especially the one on Super Nintendo. Like, I had no idea how to get off the first level.
The prevalence of, like, Grim Reapers walking down the street, that they need to move out of that neighborhood.
Also, I will say, before we get to Terminator, Super Paperboy, which is the one I had.
I haven't played that one.
Well, it's difficult because
the first one was difficult.
You'd think, as a Paperboy, which he's very clearly delivering newspapers.
Yeah.
Like, which I love, that he's very clearly delivering newspapers, and, like, you're whacking people with newspapers. I love it. You'd think that your job would be to make sure everyone gets their newspaper. You know, so I'd go through, and I got so good at those courses that every house would get a newspaper. Well, and I couldn't get off the first level. It turns out that only certain houses are supposed to get newspapers.
Right.
Where the f*** was that explained?
Because then you'll run out of papers because you only want to do the ones that have the subscriptions.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
The game just starts.
You probably didn't have the tiny little booklet that came with it.
I did not.
Yeah.
It was this. Everyone else had a PlayStation by the time I had a Super Nintendo, so this is all hand-me-down. I didn't know most of the stuff had booklets.
Right? I probably have, like, I have most of my 8-bit games from when I was a kid, but I only have, like, God 2 of the booklets.
Yeah. Games didn't come with... No, now they come with booklets, and it's just like, to read the manual, go
to
this website.
Like, it's so dumb.
Anyways, so
what were we talking about?
We should be talking about Terminator. We're talking about Paperboy, actually. So you have not seen Terminator.
I was so sure that I had.
So I assume you've seen Terminator 2 then.
That is the only one that I had seen until a few weeks ago.
So what was this like for you? Because you know the story of Terminator 2. So you've seen Sarah Connor at her worst. You've seen her when, she's kind of an outlaw. Everyone assumes she's crazy. In that one, Arnold Schwarzenegger's a good guy.
Right.
You have him learning how to smile and do thumbs up and all this shit.
But the thing is, like,
you have the liquid guy. Like, what was this like?
I knew the story of Terminator. I knew most of the lines of Terminator. So it wasn't surprising to me that he was a bad... It's not like I was like, wait a minute.
Come with me if you want to live.
Arnold Schwarzenegger played a bad... Like...
What?
In playing the video games and the toys and pop culture references and spoofs, like, I assembled it all in my head, and had you asked me a month ago or 5 years ago or 15 years ago, I would have said, of course I've seen the Terminator. I was sure that I had.
You've kind of seen it in your mind's eye.
Right.
So, because you knew the story.
And I realized that I had seen the last, once I finished it, I had seen the last 15 minutes of the film. I probably caught it. Which is
terrifying.
Yeah.
The entire movie's scary. It's a terrifying film.
I think the biggest surprise for me was Sarah Connor's character, because I was used to the badass, like, now she was still a badass in the first one, but it was her becoming that badass.
You're not used to like big bouffanted hair, Sarah.
Yeah, like, oh, let's go out with my roommate and boys and then what's his name? The guy that travels back in time. John Connor's dad. Kyle Reese. Was like, yeah, the Sarah Connor that I heard about or knew, I don't remember which, and like what a badass she was, and her grappling with the knowledge that that's who she becomes was interesting, especially since that's who I knew. Like, I was kind of going through that with her, or with Kyle, I guess, because that was the only Sarah Connor that I knew.
One of my favorite lines in the movie is when she's bandaging him up, and she's like, "You're speaking about all these things that I did that I haven't done yet, as if they happened in the past." And I was like, "Oh, I guess it is very weird for him. It's history. For you, it hasn't even happened yet."
John Connor gave me a picture of you once. I didn't know why at the time. It was very old, torn, faded. You were young like you are now. You seemed just a little sad. I used to always wonder what you were thinking at that moment. I memorized every line, every curve. I came across time for you, Sarah. I love you. I always have.
I related to Kyle Reese's perspective more than most people watching it, because I had seen T2 and then was going back and meeting the Sarah Connor that became that.
Yeah, so you know how important, how integral she is, and so you go into it like, okay, I know this character, and then when you meet
that's
her,
not
like,
her,
who is this person?
right?
Who's this woman riding a Vespa? So I know you. I'm more than comfortable leading the conversation here, but we need to ask the obvious question.
Yeah.
What did you think of the movie?
I loved it. Like, it was very obvious why the Terminator did spawn a franchise and why it was so captivating, particularly, I think, to our generation. Mm-hmm. It was an interesting mix of action and sci-fi, and the acting was great, and the music was amazing.
And one thing that I and people like fight me on this all the time, but like I flat out just say that the movie's a horror film.
Sure,
to his essence, it's a slasher film.
They're being stalked by a
relentless killer who cannot be stopped,
who's superhuman, and they have two fake death.
Well, and if you think about it too, just think about the construction of the film. So pretend you're an audience who knows nothing. This is 1984. You're one of the first people to see this film.
You haven't already seen T2.
Yeah, like, you don't know what can stop him. You don't know what can't stop him. You know, Kyle Reese can say, oh, he wants it. He's a cyborg, and you start seeing elements of that. But you'd assume, oh, an explosion is going to get him, and he just keeps coming after you.
Right.
And then even just the construction of the film, like, Arnold goes back, Kyle Reese goes back. We don't technically know which one's good, which one's bad, because for the longest time, Kyle Reese is stalking Sarah. We know eventually find out that Arnold Schwarzenegger's character is killing Sarah Connors. We don't know that Reese is necessarily a good guy until the scene in Tech Noir where Arnold pulls out the gun and Kyle Reese blasts him with a shotgun. We have no reason to believe that Kyle Reese is a good person.
Right.
He's wearing a homeless man's pants. It's gross. So Alex, I'll gladly lead the conversation. What do you want to talk about with the film? Because like I said, I could easily just talk, but I want to try to engage you and jog your memory.
Right. It's probably one of those I don't know what I don't know things. So I would say you just talk and I'll jump in as much as I can.
Okay. I guess for me, what works, so the reasons, I think both Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 are fantastic films. I am in a minority, however, where I think Terminator 1 is the superior film in almost every aspect. And a big part of the reason why is it's almost a perfectly crafted film. It's completely tight. The tension's great. There's not an ounce of fat on this film. There's very little that if you were to sit down and be like, okay, we need to cut it shorter. Like, there's not much else that you can lose from this film without hurting it. Whereas in Terminator 2, there's probably some scenes that you don't necessarily need. There's probably some fat that you can trim, especially because there's various lengths of that film where there's everything about this film works so beautifully. You're playing into Arnold's strength. At the time, he wasn't really an actor. He still had a really thick accent. You're playing to his strengths of just being this hulking guy who doesn't have to say much. He doesn't have to do much other than just be intimidating. And then what I think is just a very underrated performance by Michael Biehn, because like he's so believable in every scene. Like, you can see it in his eyes that like you feel like he believes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't know, the more I think about this film, just the more I love it. And like I said, even what we were talking about before, it's like we don't know that at the beginning, we don't know the Terminator's a robot. We don't know Kyle Reese is a good guy. We just know these two people came from what we believe to be the future, and we don't quite know what's going on. And then just the tension that's built from the Terminator being systematic. I love the scene where he just goes through a phone book. It's like, okay, this is the first Sarah Connor.
Let's start there.
We're gonna go. Yeah, and then honestly, like, the only thing that tipped him off that he didn't complete his goal when he killed Ginger was the fact that Sarah called the house.
Yep.
He didn't know. He doesn't know what Sarah Connor looks like. There's a person home.
Right.
Take care of it.
One thing that I will say, based on your comment about it being essentially a horror film, it was interesting me hearing you say that it was inspired by Halloween, because I made that same connection without knowing that. I said it felt like Michael Myers, the way that he stalks. And for a like, it would have been really easy to give a cyborg built-in weapons and you know, he goes, he buys a couple guns. Well, doesn't buy them. He just
he destroys Dick Miller in the process.
But he works with, like, he could have just destroyed him and then went and grabbed the guns. Like, he's like, and I'll take one of those. And do you have any of these? Great, looks good. You have ammo for that? Fantastic. Oh, I'm gonna need one of those. Okay, now I'm gonna shoot you.
I need a plasma rifle. Only the stuff you see on the wall, son. Every time that actor Dick Miller, he's in a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
He's one of those famous that guys. Every time I see him, I just think of him from Gremlins when he goes, Kentucky Harvester. That's Kentucky Harvester.
The Gremlins.
Yeah.
You also would have thought that with the amount of knowledge that is clearly downloaded into the Terminator's brain, that he would have known the year he's in, and the plasma rifles weren't yet. It seemed like a...
Well, and it's at the same time, so the thing I like about the film is it's grounded in a sense of reality.
Yeah.
The reason that he didn't just go in and blow him away from the very beginning, because to an extent, his mission is to blend in.
Right.
And I also appreciate that, like you said, he didn't have a bunch. He had to go in completely naked. So much so that if you rewatch that opening scene of Arnold Schwarzenegger walking up, you can see his Terminator swinging back and forth.
Oh, that's amazing.
The wonders of Blu-ray. And then the first thing out of Amanda's mouth yesterday, she's like, he's got a perfect ass. He's like, yes, he does. He puts a lot of work into
right. That is no small amount of effort.
So, like, his whole thing is to blend in. So, like, yeah, he'd have to go to a gun store. He'd have to get all these things. And I'll appreciate, like you said, he doesn't have all these weapons. I imagine he has to be very stripped down, Like, I like that it's very futuristic. It's techie. But at the same time, it's like they can't explain everything away with tech.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he doesn't just have a gun built in. He doesn't have, like, a thermonuclear device built in. It's like, he's just... He still has to use the tools around him.
Right. And it's also, like, I like that machine, like... mission focus where he's not there to just like scorch earth. He has a mission. He is going to do that and only that.
And at the same time, like you're saying about like his mission law, like that he's got downloaded in his brain, I also love that he doesn't have everything. He still has to use clues around him, like Kyle says, that he knows two things. He knows Sarah Connor's name and he knows what city she's from.
Yep.
He doesn't know where to find her, doesn't know her address. Skynet didn't know any of that, so he has to go through and he has to find the clues and figure it out. And I eventually said to Amanda, it's like, how do they know Connor wasn't a married name?
Oh, nice.
Like, how do they not know? Like, it very we don't know. If those are the only two pieces of information they know, it's like, Sarah Thompson over there is going, woo. Good thing I'm fine.
Thank goodness.
But like, so I just love, like, they even said in the movie, like, there's a systematic approach to the way that the Terminator goes about everything, and it's like, it's like Sarah possibly could have been, well, maybe not fine, because we don't really know what happens to a Terminator after he's completed his mission. I assume, well, they try to explain it in Dark Fate, but
okay.
Her calling is what essentially put a target on her head. She said where she was at, so it was like, well, I got to go there. And then since he realized, oh, I hadn't killed Sarah, let me find something to find out who I'm looking for. And then later on in the film, when they're hiding out at the Tiki Motel, he doesn't know how to find her, so he finds an address for a family member and goes there.
Yep.
And and that's what actually the most chilling scene in the movie, when Sarah's talking to her, what we assume to be her mother, and then it cuts to the cabin and you see the door blown in and the camera's just slowly moving through the house and you can see all the wreckage and carnage, and then it shows him sitting there. It's frightening.
And he was, correct me if I'm wrong, he was like talking but in her voice.
Yeah, he's mimicking her voice, which is, and like I said, he's just he has to do these things to figure out where Sarah's at, and he's not killing these people just to kill them. He's killing them because they're in his way. It's
reminiscent of I'll pull it back to Halloween when Michael Myers like digs up the headstones of his dead sister, like, of reconnecting to those family members and using that to kind of get to her.
Definitely. And I hadn't really done a lot of research into what specifically James Cameron took influence from. I don't know if it was the fact that, an inexpensive made horror film, or if it was like, the idea of this unstoppable killer. Like, you can definitely see the connections between Terminator and Halloween, but it's not like, normally if someone will, like, if I would have been like, oh, I'm Michael Myers and I just directed Terminator and it's my biggest influence is Halloween, you'd be like, okay,
what?
Like, I guess I can see that. So I honestly, like, I find it fascinating that he was inspired by Halloween, especially because, like, I can see it, but at the same time, it's still so different.
Yeah. Yep. Like there's an elemental core that matches, and then everything around that core is totally different.
Definitely. So is this jogging any of your memory, Nick?
Like I'm remembering it as we're talking about it. It's not necessarily branching. I don't think you have to watch it in a certain way, in order to develop the kind of witty repartee that we typically have. And even whether I've seen something or haven't seen it, like I can still watch it with that in mind. And this is the first one that I watched that like I thought I was just putting on some movie that I've seen a couple times before, and kind of background noisy. And I'm like,
this is all new.
Wait a minute, It was like 30 minutes in when I realized that I hadn't seen it before.
My notes are not necessarily like biting commentary about like what the film is and thematic analysis and all that, but what I do, some of it's just comments that I've noticed. It's like a dumb, like a lot of it's just dumb little lines that I noticed. Like one of my favorite is from early on in the film was when the police are going after Kyle Reese for stealing that homeless man's pants.
All right, buddy.
And then like he captures that one cop and he goes, "What day is it?" And I just love the way the cop 12 May Thursday. Like what order are you doing this in? What year? I don't know. That just always kills me. And then like I said, there's just so many great lines just that are just spewed in the background that I've only noticed through just years of having watched this movie as much as I have. But like one of the first scenes of Sarah, and she's like dealing with her customers, and she's just having a nightmare of a day.
Right. Yeah.
She doesn't know who ordered the burly beef, and someone wanted meatloaf and didn't want fries, and then there's that kid who puts ice cream in her pocket, and the customer that annoys me the most, she's like, "I should give you the tip, kid." Like, she's just doing her job, man. Don't be such a asshole.
That was clearly not filmed in the Midwest, where everyone would have been super nice.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's fine. I'll take the fries. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I'll take the fries. It's fine. I didn't want them, but I'll take them. They're still going to be great. I appreciate it. I'm going to give you an extra tip just because you're having a very clearly rough day. That's how I am.
Yes.
And it's like I'm almost like after watching it this time, I'm almost wondering, it's like, were they making these people just terrible to like make us side with the machines?
Right.
Like, maybe humanity
we deserve
is
it.
Terrible. Maybe we deserve this.
This James Cameron's all, no, you're not getting the point of the movie. It's be nice to your waitresses. That is the point of Terminator.
Oh my God, I just thought of a moment from film school that amused me. So I don't remember even how the conversation came up, but I was in one of my classes and one of my professors at the time, we were talking about like filmmakers, and I think it was around the time that Avatar came out.
Okay.
I remember Avatar came out when I was in film school, and like I was blown away, not necessarily with the movie, but just how the 3D effects and all the work that they did in the film. And we were talking about it in class, and I think before the class began, and one of the professors came in and was talking about, just started mentioning James Cameron, because I also mentioned that I love the Terminator films, and he goes, James Cameron one time said that if he hadn't made a living making movies, he would have gone back to being a truck driver. Maybe he should have stayed a truck driver.
Oh, ouch.
And I was like, damn, this guy has had more success than you. You're
right?
Teaching college-level film courses. Leave James Cameron alone. Yeah, he hasn't made... all of his movies haven't been great, but you make Terminator
what
and
have you
Terminator
done?
2, you can essentially write your own ticket.
Right.
What the fuck, man?
You know what? Let's give James Cameron an extra tip. He's clearly having a rough day. There's some people criticizing him.
Yeah. James Cameron needs it. And then and going back to my background comments, it's like there's the scene where like the guy's on the phone with his girlfriend, is like, my motorcycle broke down. I need you to come pick me up. I don't care what you're doing. And then like Terminator rips him off the phone and he goes, hey man, you're being a real asshole. And it's like they didn't focus on it. They're not doing a close-up of him. It's just like said quietly in the background. And I just love that it happens so much throughout this film.
Yeah.
Where there's just people making comments and talking in the background.
And
when Terminator's walking through the hallway like of the apartment building and he's got like the gun and there's one guy going, oh, this is like, holy or something like that. Like there's people making comments everywhere throughout the film, and it just brings me joy.
Yeah, no, it's a great layer of something that I always approach any artistic thing that I do. I had a good friend who is a visual artist, does a lot of painting. He also writes music, but he would always talk to me about texture.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people when they paint a layer.
Mm-hmm.
And I took his texture comments as a way to like hide my deficiencies. So like if you have one mediocre layer, like that sucks. And if you can do a great single layer, that's awesome. But if mediocre is the best you can do, then throw several mediocre layers, and the texture of it all will hide them. It'll make it more interesting, right?
I completely agree.
So
continue your thought, and I have something to say then afterwards.
I think little things like that, if a movie that I make isn't visually stunning, maybe I can distract them by like putting in little entertaining bits throughout, so that they never stop and look at how like, yeah, it's okay visually, but if they're always off getting entertained by some little snippet I throw in.
Yeah, and like I think that's actually one thing this movie does well. So like it's a beautifully painted picture, because not only are the main elements very well done. The cinematography is great, the music's great, the acting's great, all that's really great. But then it does have this texture throughout it. So yeah, in a lot of cases, this movie is a running gun car chase, shoot 'em up sci-fi movie. But like what it does super well, because like I've seen Terminator ripoffs, about robots and killing people and car chases, and it's not done nearly as well. And part of it comes down to direction.
Sure.
And then like just the core mechanics, like the music's not as good, the cinematography's not as good. But like I've seen movies that are Terminator ripoffs essentially that have had really great cinematography, but it is missing that texture. It's not necessarily I need everyone making background comments, but it's also little things too. Like I appreciate in a movie that's so gun centric. I also appreciate that like while Kyle Reese is delivering exposition, that we see him reloading the guns, that we see him taking care of this stuff, that we've actually had to see him making these bombs. So it doesn't just feel like he's got an unlimited amount of this stuff. Like, it's actually an annoyance for me if I'm watching a movie where it's got, a bunch of people shooting guns and everything, and no one ever has to reload, no one ever has to do any of that. Because, like, one, it not only gives you downtime, but it gives you that texture that you're talking about.
Oh,
so all these things come together.
That, I think, had the added benefit of being character development for him, because seeing him hand-making these bombs and taking care of his guns, like, you could feel how, without him saying anything, how he was this part of this rebel splinter group that had to make every ounce of what little resources they had, as valuable as possible. You could see that mentality. It's like when you see the rebels in the first Star Wars trilogy hunkered down in Hoth and, trying to scrape together enough pieces to put a couple X-Wings together. Like you felt his rebel position through those equipment maintenance scenes.
Yeah, and it's also like him sawing off the barrel of the shotgun, hiding underneath his jacket, and tying the rope. It's like it's like other movies would just show you with that gun, and I like that we got to see the steps leading up to it. And like I'm a big fan of characters doing something, like having something to do while they're delivering exposition, so it's not just two people talking to each other. And like little things, like later on in the movie when they're checking in the Tiki Motel, he's playing around with the dog, and it could just be a throwaway, like, he likes dogs. But then once you've seen in the flashbacks that they use dogs to tell them whether or not there's a Terminator nearby, he's knowing there's like, we have a little bit of safety here because I've got something here that will notify me if something seems awry. And it's like these just little details that I sometimes I feel like if there's movies I've watched that aren't working for me, that if they would have put a little more work into their texture or work into like making, because another thing too that worked for me about this film was it just didn't feel like a cheap movie. And even though it was made for a relatively reasonable sized budget, You know, the fact that the film didn't necessarily feel like it was lit. It was using mixed sources. You know, if there was lighting rigs on the ceiling, you were seeing the actual lights in the scene, you know, as opposed to just being blown up with light. And, you know, it's that also builds into the texture of it. And I feel like if movies that aren't as good were a little bit better at that texture, it would improve the film tremendously.
Something that you said about the dogs, you know, how that was they tied that back, speaks to what you were saying about there's no fat to trim. And I think that speaks to storycraft and writing. It's okay to have these little tangent ideas. They're great. I think what a lot of stories don't do as well is making those little tangents important enough to be there.
Yeah.
You got to tie it back in, make it relevant, make it so that if you delete that, you lose something important. And it doesn't take a whole lot of, you know, it doesn't take brilliance. It just takes recognizing that it's important as you're going through your script. And you like this little scene? Okay, make it too important to cut.
Yeah, and I love too that the film does this with side characters too, where, you know, it's not necessarily trying to be like, every character needs to have a full arc. It's like there's little things that they've added. So like Ginger, she's got a lot of character, even though she's not in the movie very long. And her boyfriend Matt also does. Like, one of my favorite little bits in the movie is when Sarah picks up the phone and it's Matt, and he's going like, "First, I'm gonna tear off your clothes," and he's just going into his whole thing. And then she starts to laugh, and you realize,
sorry.
Can I speak to Ginger, please? And then as soon as Ginger picks up the phone, he goes right back into the speech, and you're like, that gives you an idea of what this guy's like. And he's just kind of a dork.
I wrote, this is going to be great. Round 2. That's okay. It's still going to be great. It's like this is going to work. This is going to work. Yep. Everything's going to be good. And like, we got to know a lot about the characters through that. And like, made all the ordinarily throwaway character worth being there.
Yeah. And like, what this film does in a very interesting way too, in screenwriting terms, there's something known as a window character. And a window character is essentially, think of it like Wilson from Castaway.
Okay.
Where it's something for the character to show the window of their soul. Someone for them to deliver exposition to, so that way it's essentially delivering it to the audience. Yeah. It's a very rare instance where Sarah is the main character, but she is the window character. Okay. She's the character in which Kyle Reese can explain all this stuff to, explain to the audience, and it doesn't feel weird.
Right. Because ordinarily the protagonist is the one going on the journey, is the one that's searching. And, well, I mean, I guess that's kind of a function, and you could approach it a bunch of different ways, but a function of this being like a slasher film in nature, where the protagonist is the target of this thing, but she's also but the time travel adds another element of it too, where like I don't think we can deny that Sarah Connor is the protagonist, right?
Yeah,
but Kyle Reese isn't exactly a secondary character there to support her story either. It's kind of like you could easily tell the same story with Kyle Reese as the protagonist. It's really interesting, that character plot.
Yeah,
I'd have to watch it again to have the analysis that deserves, and to have anything intelligent to say on it.
Because like it's very clear, like you said, that Sarah is the protagonist. And in a lot of ways, while Kyle is also a protagonist, he's more of a secondary character, because this is not Kyle Reese's story.
Yeah.
It's Sarah's story. He's just involved in it. But it's also interesting that you have
But he's on his own mission.
Exactly.
And that's what makes him different.
But another movie that does this very well, too, is The Karate Kid. it's Daniel's story, but Mr. Miyagi knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So,
but
I don't know.
but
It's something I noticed this time watching it.
That you could say with the window character, but I like Mr. Miyagi. While he has some of his own motivations, I don't think he has his own mission. You know, Daniel came to him and said, "Train me, train." No, I won't train you. Okay, I'll train you. Like it wasn't where Kyle Reese he is focused on his own storyline. You're just not focusing on it as much, which is an interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'd have to watch it again.
And then I didn't take notes necessarily on this, but like I try to keep it in mind when I'm watching scenes of action. There's another theory in filmmaking and even in screenwriting in terms of when you're crafting an action sequence. It's called Good News, Bad News. And I learned about this from actually a screenwriting podcast that after I learned about it, I could not see it.
You see it, right. You see it everywhere.
Good News, Bad News, where the example that they gave in the podcast was the movie Solo. So we're not talking about Terminator. So I'm using Solo as an example to then reference it to Terminator. You've seen Solo?
I have. I love it. I'd say outside of the original 3, it might be my favorite Star Wars film.
Can I ask you a question, Captain Calrissian?
Anything, Han? It's Han, but that's okay. I heard a story about you. I was wondering if it's true. Everything you've heard about me is true.
So good news, bad news, essentially just say good news, something happens. Bad news, something else happens. Good news, this happens. Bad news, this happens. It's a way of building an action sequence. And Solo does it very well in that sequence where he's like, good news, I'm back alive. Bad news, you don't have the stuff I sent you out to get. Good news, you can't do anything because I've got a bomb. Bad news, that's actually a rock. Good news, I'm going to throw it against the window and bring in the light.
Right.
Bad news, they're still going to chase me. You know, it's push-pull. And this film does it very well as well. Like the scene that I'm thinking of most, and I might be remembering some of the beats wrong, so it may not be exact. Yeah. But like near the end, it's like, good news, we've got a vehicle. Bad news, he's still chasing us. Good news, we've got grenades. We're going to throw it at him. Bad news, he keeps dodging them. Good news, we finally, took him out with one. Bad news, we weren't paying attention and we crashed the car. Good news, we can still get away on foot. Bad news, he's coming at us with the truck. Good news, we can put a bomb in the tailpipe of the truck and he'll blow up. Bad news, he's still coming after us. Like, there's this push-pull. Yeah. Good news, bad news. Good news, bad news. And ever since I heard that podcast, it was actually called a podcast called Writers Blockbusters. They're talking about it in the Soul episode. I can't see an action sequence without seeing it, and if an action sequence doesn't do that, it just feels off. Yeah. And not saying every scene ever needs to do it, but it's a good way of building a sequence as opposed to being like the hero comes in and punches the guy and everything's good. It's like, well, where's the conflict? Right. And this movie does that very well.
And I imagine that's something. It's like the rule of threes in story writing, where I'm sure a lot of people do it well without having any idea that that's a rule, but it just feels intuitive.
Yeah, it's like three callbacks to something. Yeah. It's like, you can bring it in the middle. It's like a running joke. It doesn't have to necessarily be a running joke, but it's something that's called back 3 times.
Twice isn't enough, and 4 times is way too many.
Because like twice you can explain away as being coincidence.
Right.
4 times is
like
too many.
3
times is, and you can sometimes get away with 4, but 3 seems to be the magic number. I'm trying to think of a good example of this. I think like if you even think about like there might be more than 3, but I feel like there's 3 flashbacks to the past.
Oh, to the future.
To the future,
to Kyle Reese's past, which is Sarah Connor's future.
I'm not including the opening of the film because that's not really a flashback.
Right.
It's like when Kyle's sitting in the car and he sees the construction equipment, and you have that really amazing transition of him looking at the wheels of the machine, and then it pans down and you see skulls. And so that was great.
They showed just the right amount in those flash forwards.
Flash forward. Well, I guess it's technically a flashback for Kyle Reese.
For him, yeah. Damn, time travel movies are impossible to actually discuss coherently.
So difficult.
But yeah, it was so moody, and that juxtaposition of machine against like the bones like that of organic death was
and then like
flawless.
the synth score that comes in when he does like so there's that one. There's the one later on with in the underground bunker with him and the dogs and the kids.
Yep.
And I feel like there was a third one.
Probably. And if not, then we'll say that intro was the third one that we needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're good.
You know, like they showed us the right amount of the future without going overboard with it.
I remember discussing on another episode, and I can't for the life of me think of the episode, where one of my big takeaways was I can totally see why this spawned a franchise. And it's the same for this. The amount of...
See if I can remember what episode that was.
They set the... I keep thinking Highlander, but I don't think that was it. They set the right amount of backstory.
Okay.
Where it is absolutely captivating, but insufficient. Like, you need to know... It's just the right amount for the story they told, but there's so much more story there.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that's what a good movie should have. It should have you wanting more. Because like you leave Terminator and not everything is answered.
Right.
You know, there's still questions. And it's not like some people would view it as plot holes. Like, well, how does this work? How does this work? Just because you have questions doesn't mean it's a plot hole.
Right. No, absolutely.
The word plot hole is thrown around far too much on the internet. There's a difference between plot hole and information that's unintentionally not given to us.
Or intentionally left out. Oh, intentionally or unintentionally. Yeah.
Yeah. And like there's enough to this story where it makes you want more. And like if there wouldn't have been a sequel, there wouldn't have been a franchise. There's enough in this film to like, oh yeah, I want to see what's going to happen to Sarah Connor. I want to see what's going to happen to the future. But there's just enough where it's like, I feel satiated. You feel like you got an entire meal in this film.
You got the entire... It's that you got this story, but it builds a world that you would love to spend more time in.
Yeah. And then there's some movies that like have sequels that really don't need it.
Right.
Like, actually, case in point, I was mentioning RoboCop earlier. Me and Amanda just rewatched RoboCop. I got the new special edition from Arrow that I'm going to be reviewing soon.
Nice.
And RoboCop had like, what, 2 or 3 sequels?
At least, I think 2 sequels.
So I think it was RoboCop 2 and 3. I rewatched RoboCop. I was like, we don't need another film.
Right.
Like, I don't even know if I've seen them. It's like, this film is perfect. It's got everything. And while I feel the same way about Terminator, there was more to expound upon.
Yeah.
It's like, do we really need more of RoboCop arresting people? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's and like you said, it's very obvious why this movie became a success. I said something very similar when we watched Masters of the Universe. While that film wasn't a success, I could see why He-Man was such a big deal for kids in the 80s.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy how much Terminator we got. You know, we had video games. Like there was the RoboCop versus Terminator video game in the Super Nintendo. There was movies, and arguably, like Terminator 2 is one of the most successful films of all time, and did so much for the special effects world. And actually, so did Terminator 1. That stop motion work near the end was phenomenal.
This is going to be said clearly from the 2019 perspective, because the effects were incredible, and for their time they were even more incredible. But when they would do any of the Arnie stuff where like you could see the red glowing eye and they'd cut to the dummy with the fake weird skin, and then they'd cut away and cut back and it's actually him. Like the difference between the two on our modern TVs was so jarring.
It was, and me and Amanda make fun of it all the time. But like when they put the sunglasses on the dummy head, it's like, okay, now it looks really
right. Like I think they were really smart about what they chose to show and what they chose to like. They had some clever hides.
Like that animatronic head. It's like that puppet is stellar.
Yeah. Like you have to forgive it. Like, because it was groundbreaking, it's been improved upon, you know, and looking at it with that context, it blows your mind. But sitting there in 2019 watching it, you can't help but chuckle when they're cutting back to this like kind of.
And I can only imagine what it was like seeing this movie in the 80s. Like I feel like it would have blown me away. I feel like it. I don't know. Maybe I'm overhyping it because I guess I don't know what else came out between Star Wars and Terminator, but I feel like it should have been as big of a deal as Star Wars. Maybe not on that level because Star Wars is still like a triumphant thing.
Yeah.
But it's like I feel like this movie would have blown me away if I would have seen it in 1984.
Right.
And then, like I said, it came out with a sequel that was bigger and badder and everything else, and it's like it just kept going upwards. And like I said, I'm one of the few people that saw the new Dark Fate that actually really liked it and appreciated that they pretty much cut out everything but 1 and 2. So they brought back Linda Hamilton and everything.
I've only seen the trailers for it. She looks so friggin' epic in the trailers.
She is. She's kind of a badass in the film. And I love this trend of bringing back like aging heroines and having them still kick ass.
Right.
And,
yeah.
And no, I don't want to spoil because its film is still relatively new, but it does some really interesting things that pissed some people off, but I don't know, because one of the biggest things that pissed people off without going into detail into why people said it, like it undid everything that came before, but it's like, well, and technically if you make a sequel to anything, it undid anything that came before. It's like, because you're pretty much saying that their plight of destroying Skynet didn't succeed.
No, I don't have enough.
I can't go into detail, but because I don't want to spoil.
I do certainly like finally seeing Terminator. Like I want to revisit T2 because I haven't seen that since I was probably 9 or 10.
Oh, it still holds up beautifully.
And I would certainly like to finish out the franchise and catch up on those.
Well, I think you should, Nick.
Thank you.
So as soon as you get the house set up.
Yep. Once I get internet back. My kids are freaking out. We picked them up on Monday and they're like, Dad, do you have the Wi-Fi on yet?
Now they got to figure out now they got to see how we lived.
Right. Back in my day.
We had to read books and color. We didn't have no fangled tablets.
So I also finally got the rest of my DVD collection over, so we've been leaning heavy on discs lately.
Well, that's the way to go. Discs are never gonna go away.
Is the knuckle tattoo, is that relatively new?
The fingers?
Yeah.
No, I've had that. Me and Amanda got that because it's gonna be very cheesy. But if we link hands, it actually says eternity.
Oh.
We got that before we got married.
Okay. So what does it say without it?
It says
tree.
Try.
It
looks like you spelt try wrong.
Hey, no regrets.
Exactly. Was there anything else you wanted to say about Terminator?
I don't think so.
This has been a Michael heavy episode.
Yeah. I think I was able to jump in.
You brought in some stuff.
Once we got broader, like out of the minutia of the film itself, I feel like I talked more than I was afraid that I was not going to.
I brought the best out of you.
Oh, you always do.
The reason I asked is because the perfect transition from how discs never go away is I have some reviews to do.
Oh!
Normally I do these as bonus episodes, but I thought if you have the time, it's always more fun to talk to someone about it as opposed to just rambling it off, and then it's another episode I have to edit. So as long as you have the time, I'm going to spend like 5 or 10 minutes on this.
Totally.
And it's easier to talk to you about it.
I'll give the occasional sell me. So, why should I see these?
My favorite one, though, is from season 2. I had my friend Nico Aldrich on, and because he was my co-host on the No Homers podcast, and we were talking about wow, I cannot think of the we talked about a slasher film. I wish I could remember the title at the moment. Slaughter High.
Okay.
And I was doing some Vinegar Syndrome reviews because this is how we used to do them. I used to just try to sell you on them. I was telling him about a movie called Prey, and while we were discussing, he bought it. I was telling him about it.
Well done.
But the first one, which I was telling you about, is, like I said, it's like Sorry to Bother You but if it was made in 1969.
That pitch alone, like, I have to see this.
It's called Putney Swope, and this will I should say this will be on sale, I believe, on Vinegar Syndrome's Black Friday sale.
Okay.
They're almost everything on their website is going to be 50% off.
Okay.
And not only that, but have you ever heard of a movie called Tammy and the T-Rex?
I've seen you promoting it on socials.
Well, Tammy and the T-Rex is a movie from the 80s starring who's the guy from the Fast and the Furious that passed away?
Oh,
Paul Walker.
Yeah.
Paul Walker.
Yep.
It stars. He's one of the characters in it. And in the movie, he dies and comes back as a dinosaur. And apparently, it was originally made to be like a hard R, gory movie. And the producer's like, no, we can't promote this. So they removed all the gore and released it as a family-friendly film.
Oh my god!
Vinegar Syndrome found all the gore footage and restored it. And it's also going to be their first 4K release.
Nice. Oh my god.
So Putney Swope will be on sale. So let me read the back of it to you. Right. Assuming he is incapable of winning, all the members of a prestigious Madison Avenue advertising firm accidentally vote to appoint the company's only black executive, Putney Swope, as chairman of the board. His unexpected win behind him, Swope changes the company's name to Truth and Soul Incorporated, fires nearly all of its elderly white employees, and focuses solely on creating subversive, outlandish, and shocking campaigns. As the company is catapulted to new heights of success, Swope finds that he has drawn in the ire of the U.S. president, who seeks to declare him and his renegade staff a threat to national security. Considered one of the masterpieces of late 60s counterculture cinema, Robert Downey Sr.'s Putney Swope remains a vital cinematic satire on race, politics, and pop culture, featuring a supporting performance from character actor Alan Garfield, along with cameos from Mel Brooks. Vinegar Syndrome is proud to present the world Blu-ray debut of Putney Swope in a stunning new 4K restoration created by the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences and the Film Foundation.
Nice.
So that's one thing I love about Vinegar Syndrome. They'll do trash. They'll do like VHS trash, films that have been lost, exploitation films like The Corpse Grinders. But then they'll do things like this, for sweet, badass songs that have a place in history. And like I said, this film, you know, it's hyper real, kind of like Sorry to Bother You is in that way, where it's like it takes place in a somewhat realistic world, but like everyone's actions are so over the top. And there's this Madison Avenue firm, and their president dies right on the table. And like before they even move the body, they're like, well, we got to figure out a new president or who's going to run the company. And they have to do a voting process. It's in the ledger of like the way when the company was founded, that they vote for who's going to run the company. And everyone's like, oh, vote for me and I'll do this for you. Vote for me and I'll do this for you. And their thought process is, it's like, well, okay, if, you know, say it's me and you. And it's like, well, if Nick's voting for me, I'm not allowed to vote for myself. But if I'm going to throw my vote away and vote for Putney Swope because he's the only black guy no one's going to vote for him. Everyone does that, thinking they're throwing their vote away, and he ends up winning. And then like his first speech, he stands up and he's doing a speech. He's like, "I'm not here to sink." He's like, "I'm not here to rock the boat. That's not what I'm here. I'm here to sink the damn boat." And then it shows like the board of all the white guys, and he hits that line, and it cuts back to the same exact shot, and it's a Steph, all of black guys, black guys and girls, and he gets rid of everyone, and like it almost feels like he's choosing these ad campaigns thinking they're not gonna work, but they get really over. So it's like he's doing a crazy, and like the movie's all in black and white, but anytime they show one of their ads, it's in full color. And like the first one he makes it's a cereal, and there's a guy just sitting there eating cereal and everything, and the narrator's like, "Hey, did you know that cereal's got a full source of vitamin E, and it does this and this and this, and it's going to make you healthier for this reason?" And it's just a slow pen on the guy's face, on expression, says he's eating the cereal. And then like it's like, and then the announcer goes, "Did you know any of this?" And the guy looks at the camera and goes, "No." And that's the ad. And then it's like just using like gratuitous sex and swearing and all this other stuff just to like rock the boat or sink the damn boat, as he says. And it's just this crazy thing of him making all this money, and like he's essentially just like trying to be difficult, but everyone's giving into him. So it's like all these people want him to make ads for them. And he's like, well, it's going to cost you $5 million a piece in cash. And they're like, that's outrageous. And he's like, and you get no say creatively at all. You have to just show the commercial.
I like the cut of your jib.
And then they all come back the next episode, and they all, like, in the next scene, they all have, like, just big, giant bags of money. And they're like, fine, we'll do it. And it's just a crazy movie. And when I found out it was made by Robert Downey Jr.'s dad, it made me happy. But then also made me sad because Robert Downey Jr. went on this tirade years ago about how he won't do indie films anymore. And it's like, dude, that's what your dad made.
Yeah.
It's all he did for the long. Like, he did some acting, but, like, he made a bigger splash as an indie film director than he ever did acting.
Your description of the film, and it may not be anything like this, but what my mind keeps going back to is the remake of Brewster's Millions.
You have 30 days in which to spend $30 million. If you can do it, you get $300 million.
There's got to be a catch.
Of course there's a catch. You have to spend the $30 million. But after 30 days, you're not allowed to own any assets. No houses, no cars, no jewelry, nothing but the shirt on your back. So it sounds easy, don't it? Well, you'll find out.
Kind of, yeah. Honestly, yes. That is what it reminds me of.
Which is an amazing friggin' movie.
I just saw that movie for the first time like a year or two ago.
Oh, really?
And I really liked it. Yeah, I didn't know if I was gonna like. John Landis. I've seen a few of his films, but he's still kind of not John Landis. That's not John Landis. That's the director of The Warriors. I can't think of his name at the moment.
Okay.
But it's like I've seen quite a few of his films. So I've seen like The Warriors, The Driver, a bunch of his like action adventure films. I just didn't think I'd like his comedies very much, but I ended up loving it.
And Richard Pryor, of course, is
and John Candy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's you know in that movie he's intentionally just trying to be difficult, and it's not working for him. But this and then so the restoration on the film is great. Like it's gorgeous black and white cinematography that Robert Downey Sr. was just he's running, gunning, shooting this. I think it took him a period of time to make this film, and it's like I watch it and it feels important. Like I said, it's so much so that if the Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences decided to pay for the restoration of this, and a company like Vinegar Syndrome, who, except for the longest time, was restoring vintage porn, got to do it, this is a big get for them.
Yeah.
And I also love that the cover it looks like a person flipping it off, but the finger's a girl.
Yeah.
Like
that's a great cover.
Real quick, I'm going to read what the features are. Newly scanned and restored in 4K from various 35mm preprint elements. There's an audio commentary of director Robert Downey Sr., a video interview with Robert Downey Sr. from 2001, another video interview with him from 2008, a Q&A with Robert Downey Sr., audio interview with cinematographer Gerald Kotz, audio interview with film critic and historian Sergio Mims, theatrical trailer, archival pictures, and so on and so forth. The interviews with Robert Downey Sr. are all really good because he just seems so laid back and cool.
Yeah.
Like, he just seems like, he's like, yeah, I made this movie for next to nothing, and, and he talks about what he was trying to accomplish with it, and, being involved in the counterculture, and he's very likable in all the interviews. Nice. I don't feel like he necessarily says anything super profound, but it's great to hear information about. I like hearing the director talk about making the film.
Yeah.
But what I think is really good is the commentary with film critic Sergio Mims. I always like when a film critic or historian talks about a film because they can put it in historical context in a way, as opposed to being like, oh, this is what it was like shooting this scene. Right. We had these issues.
In a way that people involved never could.
He talks about like what was going on in cinema at the time. So, PUTNEY SWOPE. That
nice.
was really good. And then I got one other.
Real quick, as to break up the two reviews. You know how like local news footage when they're interviewing the camera person, and then just passers-by will walk in the background, and they're kind of always weirdly looking into the camera as they pass by.
Yeah. Yeah.
My shot of you is like that, except with animals.
And your shot's like that, but except with your daughter.
With my daughter, yeah. So like a cat will walk by, looking like, oh, what's going on over there? And then a dog walks by, oh, what's going on over there?
Especially because my frame is rather large, too. Like, I've been trying to add stuff in the background, but I have two closets, so it's like I can't really put anything there.
You should hang up the painting of Santa Claus on one of them.
On a door?
Yeah.
Where? On the door?
On the door. Okay. Number 2.
All right. So the next movie I have is so Vinegar Syndrome is doing another series. They have a store in Connecticut where they're from.
Oh, nice.
Called The Archive. The Archive is not only just their releases, they want to do a physical media store so that you can get Blu-rays, you can get records, you can get CDs, and they carry stuff from every other company like Scream Factory, Arrow, Criterion, all the specialty records that are coming out. They want to do everything. But they wanted to do I think they call it the Archive Collection, where the Archive Collection is film, because like you can get Vinegar Syndrome releases anywhere. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them through other sellers. The Archive Collection is stuff that you can only get that is only catered to physical media stores.
Okay.
So like theirs, exclusive company places like that, or directly from their website. You're not going to find it on Amazon. You're not going to find it on any of the secondhand places. You have to get it directly from them, or take yourself out to a store that's selling.
It's like the brew pub exclusive or whatever, you know.
Yeah. So this is one of their releases, and it seems like from what I've noticed, it's stuff that like was like VHS cheese and stuff like that. This one has got an amazing slipcover because it's meant to look like an old VHS, where it's like, so it's actually like you pull it from below.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah.
And it's got 2 titles: Savage Harbor, aka Death Feud.
And was that Stallone?
It's a Stallone.
Best response ever. I only saw the cover for a second as you twirled it.
It's a Stallone, and it's a Mitchum. It's Robert Mitchum's son and Frank Stallone. And they talk about this on one of the features where when they were trying to sell the film, they had Savage Harbor and they had Stallone, Mitchum, and then really small, Frank, Christopher. As if they're trying to make some like Stallone, like, you know, Robert Mitchum and Stallone made a movie. It's a Stallone.
And I know I've brought this scene up on the podcast before, but since we're approaching Christmas and I'm in Christmas movie watching form, I have to bring up again the movie Fred Claus.
I was actually thinking real quick.
Yeah.
I was thinking that we should do Santa with Muscles and a Fred Claus double feature.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if we're gonna have enough with Santa with Muscles, so I feel like we should do both.
I agree.
But continue your thoughts.
So it's the less famous sibling like support
Yes.
group. So there's Bill Clinton's brother. There's Frank Stallone is in that scene. I forget who else, but it's like, and they're all the actual people. So they're one of the Baldwins. Sitting around in the support group, which Fred Claus comes to because Santa's his brother, and they all think that he's making fun of them.
And like I love Frank Stallone amuses me. I said this in the Rocky episode. Frank Stallone sounds like a made up character. It sounds like an SNL sketch.
Right?
Like, oh, I'm Stallone's brother, Frank Stallone.
Or there was a Steven, I can't think of the comedian's name. He's like a songwriting comedian.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
He also wrote the music for the Wedding Singer Broadway musical. But anyway, he has a song called Cred Christ, which is all about Jesus Christ's cooler older brother.
That's amazing.
Anyway, yeah, so I think we're on tangent of a tangent of a tangent.
Savage Harbor, I'm going to read the back. So Joe, played by Frank Stallone, and Chris, played by Christopher Mitchum, live a life of high seas adventures, working as merchant seamen. But after arriving in a port in a port in Los Angeles for a brief leave, Joe meets Anne, a desperate young woman with a sordid history of prostitution and heroin addiction. As their romance builds, Joe realizes that he's fallen in love, but soon, Anne's former pimp, Harry, tracks her down, kidnapping and brutalizing her with intent of forcing her back under his control and into her old ways of life. Determined not to let her go, Joe and Harry form a 2-man army to rescue Anne and take down Harry and his drugs once for all. Wow, there's 2 typos. Not only did they change Chris's name to Harry on here, but they also missed a word.
Nice.
A brain-busting mid-'80s action extravaganza in the Executioner Part 2 vein of mind-numbing sleaze. That's a hell of a sentence. Savage Harbor, also known as Death Feud, also stars Greta Blackburn, Anthony Caruso, Nicholas Worth, and Lisa Loring from the Addams Family. She plays a stripper.
Nice.
Wednesday Addams plays a stripper.
What?
Yeah. Directed by notorious exploitation film auteur Carl Monson. Vinegar Syndrome Archive presents the worldwide disc debut of Savage Harbor, presented in a new 2K restoration of its original camera negative. If this movie gets summed up in any way, it's actually in a video interview with Frank Stallone on here. The video interview, by the way, is called "Do You Like Avocados?" and I'll explain that in a second. The first thing out of Frank Stallone's mouth is Savage Harbor. How the f*** did you hear about that movie? It's the first thing out of his mouth in that. So Savage Harbor is weird because you have Christopher Mitchum and Frank Stallone in a movie together, and they're playing these merchant seamen who come back who go to Los Angeles to get their life in order for a little bit before they ship back out. And what's great is Frank Stallone feels like he's wearing his brother's clothes from Rocky. He's got that weird like Rocky hat that he wears, and he's got like the leather jacket. It looks like he just took his clothes from Rocky.
It was what was in the closet.
Yeah, and the movie opens up with this crazy like gun shootout on a beach where it's supposed to be like this drug lord and pimp Harry. He's supposed to be getting some new girls in from China, and they end and when the boat, it's just like a little rowboat, comes to the shore. They're like, those girls ain't Chinese, they're white, and it becomes a big shootout. And Harry's like main squeeze escapes. Ends up meeting Joe, and she gets her life on track, and she wants to get clean. And Joe has this great line where he asks her very earnestly, "Do you like avocados?" And he says, "Avocados." And she laughs at him, and she's like, "It's been my dream when I'm no longer a merchant seaman to start an avocado farm or avocado farm." And he says this with such earnestness. And she's like, I could see myself doing that. And they create it's a montage of like love scenes and them getting together, and and then things are going well. And Christopher Mitchum's character meets a stripper played by Wednesday Addams, and they create a relationship together. But then they have to go back out to sea to do merchant seaman stuff. They don't really touch on it very much.
Two quick things. One, I hope she performs under the name Monday Addams.
No, fortunately not. But you see her boobs a lot.
Oh, nice. And
she's an adult now, kids. It's not weird. She's an adult now.
And number two, funny story. Do you know who actually does own an avocado farm?
Who?
Jason Mraz.
Really?
Yes.
What?
Look it up.
Was he a merchant seaman at one point?
Probably.
So they end up coming back. Joe and Chris end up coming back, and they want to get their life going. It's like, Chris goes to see his girl at the... She's funny. She's a stripper. She's the only stripper at a bar. There's one bar. There's a bar that they always go to, and she's the only dancer. It's like, that's a lot to live up to.
Right?
You're the only one. And, they go back together, and Joe tries to go find his girlfriend. But what Harry, the main bad guy, finds out that she had gotten clean and she was trying to escape the life, and he's like, that can't be. So while Joe and Chris were gone, he got her rehooked on heroin, and now she's prostituting herself to get heroin money. And Joe can't find her. He goes back to her old apartment. She's not there anymore. A different hooker lives there. No one will give any information, and he goes on a rampage to try to find her. And Harry feels that she's going to give up too much information, so he sends a hitman out to get her, and it just becomes this crazy movie with very surprisingly good car chases, bad action. Christopher Mitchum's just there, and he looks a lot like his dad.
Okay.
He looks a lot like his dad, but he doesn't sound like his dad, which is throws me off. And the same thing with Frank Stallone. He doesn't sound like his brother. Like, it almost feels like he sounds so little like his brother that it sounds like his brother's doing a fake voice. And it's just like this very crazy action film that I didn't necessarily love, but if people out there love those bad 80s action films, it's right up their alley.
Nice. Awesome.
Like, this is the type of movie I was actually kind of referencing when I said a movie that lacks texture. This is that movie. That being said, though, it does have its own weird texture. It just doesn't, like, the whole avocado thing is it just feels, once again, like it was a movie that was made by people who have never seen a movie.
But that they always wanted to make one?
Yes, it's fascinating. Like it's definitely a party movie. It's a movie that you'd put on while watching with people and you'd have a great time.
Nice.
To sit down and try to actually watch and enjoy it by yourself, it doesn't work too well for me. But I definitely think it's going to have its audience.
And there's totally a place for movies like that.
Yeah. And I do have to say I think I showed you. I just bought some new speakers very recently.
Yep.
The restoration on the sound was fantastic. If the movie was only on VHS before, I imagine they had to do a lot of work to clean it up, and they had to find the original negatives, and it sounded amazing on my setup. So I was like, oh, it looks great. It's a treat to listen to. It's just not very good. Special features, not many, but they're great. Newly scanned and restored in 2K from its 35mm camera original. And then the interview. Do you like avocados? A video interview with Frank Stallone. This is a gem. This is worth buying the movie alone. Because like I said, the first thing out of his mouth is like, how do you know about that movie?
I like how it's not how the F have you... Sorry, my daughter's here. The F did you hear about Frank Stallone?
Yeah, and it's great because he talks about like his acting career, and he's like, "Oh, I wasn't much of an actor." He's like, "I was a rock star." It's like, "Were you? Were you?" It's like, okay, and he's like, but I was good enough to get some roles, put food on the table for my family, and he's just being very open and honest about his career. He talks about like Christopher Mitchum growing up like with his famous father and working with John Wayne, and John Wayne like he's like Christopher Mitchum, he's no like tree hugger or anything, but like he was trying to he was doing an organization to try to clean up the oceans and like that. Like he's like, what's wrong with clean water? And he goes and he's like, John Wayne found out about it and called up his dad, said, I'm not working for your son anymore. He's a pinko. And he's like he's not a communist because he thinks we should have clean water. And then he's like talking about his own career, and he's like I've done a lot of bad movies, a couple good ones, a lot of bad movies. And he's just being so delightfully honest throughout this entire interview that I was like, I even put on Twitter because I love that Frank Stallone has the Twitter handle @Stallone. Like his brother is the Sly Stallone. It's like Frank's got @Stallone. And I was like, if Frank Stallone's ever in Wisconsin, I will gladly buy this man.
Right?
He seems like he's a hoot to hang out with. And even he's like, I don't get the whole avocado thing. It's like that was just in there. It's like so much of the script we had to eventually start ad-libbing because there wasn't a full script, and then he talks about too. It's like he's like the lead actress in the movie. He's like, me and her had a thing for a while. We had an affair for a little while. Sweet girl. Have no idea what happened. And I was like, oh my God, Frank Stallone, you're the best. You are the best, Stallone. Oh, awesome. And then this interview doesn't live up nearly to that one. It's an audio interview with cinematographer Jack Beckett. I'm not a big fan of audio interviews because like I like something to look at.
Right.
A double-sided poster, reversible cover artwork, and English subtitles. But like Savage Harbor is not a great movie, but that interview with Frank Stallone makes it so good. And infamously, as I said, it stars A. Stallone.
That could not have been better timing from us. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Is that Sylvester Stallone? It's A. Stallone.
You're going to have to really lower your expectations a little bit. It's A. Stallone. Is it the good Stallone? It depends on your point of view. So those are my 2 Vinegar Syndrome reviews.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I was like, it's so much more fun being able to describe them to you as opposed to just talking to myself, being like, and then this happens, and
it's hard. Yeah, those solo episodes are tricky.
And I'll keep doing them just because, like, if people are going to keep sending me stuff, I'm going to keep reviewing them. But I don't always have the luxury where I can sit down for an extra half hour and talk to you about them.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. So I'm sure we have a Christmas/anniversary episode coming up that we're loosely planning, but I also recently watched another classic film from, it's got to be early 90s, I'm assuming, that I had never seen before.
What's that?
Alien.
That's from 70s.
What? Really? Is it that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It came out before Terminator.
Okay, I will, I have many talents. pinning down when things happened is not one of those talents.
I think it actually might have come out around the same time as Star Wars.
Okay. That makes sense. Now that I'm thinking about it, yeah. Yeah, no.
So I guess let me ask you this. Would you rather do that next? Because I've technically got this is not going to, by the time people are hearing this, I would have already posted my episode on Audition that I did with Josephine. It would be this.
Is that the Japanese horror film Audition?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Titty.
Yeah, we did about an hour 40 on that.
Awesome.
Movie. And that's a Japanese movie, so I won't be able to add any clips really to that film very much. So it's gonna just be pure talking.
Nice.
It's a very academic episode in a lot of ways, which we don't do often, but I love it. I like when we.
I wish we did more of them. I really have fun with those episodes.
Well, we can do an academic episode on Fred Claus. So yep. I guess that was gonna be my next question for you. Do you want to do Alien sooner than later, or do you want to do our Christmas anniversary episode and then do Alien?
Whenever timing works.
Would you rather rewatch Alien?
Oh yeah, I think I'd like to rewatch it.
So how would you feel about this? How about would you be able, some of this is going to get cut out? Would without internet, will you be able to get a copy of Santa with Muscles?
Yeah, because I have to buy that anyway, right?
Yeah, so I'm thinking, because it's like we're going to be mid-December by the time we record next, because I got 2 episodes already planned.
And then we'll do Aliens. Or
I'm thinking
Alien later.
Probably like closer to the New Year, you think?
Cool, yeah.
So, because that way we can actually have our Christmas episode near Christmas, take a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
Come back swinging in the New Year with Alien.
Cool. Swinging with our Terminator. Swinging our Terminator.
Yeah. Plus, I'm sure by the time we get around to recording Alien, it's been some time since you've seen it. It might be a good idea to rewatch.
Absolutely.
So, should we plan for our next episode to be our double feature of Fred Claus and
Santa with muscles?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You should have some time to get a copy of it because it's going to be a little bit before even this episode goes up.
I'll look for it now and try and get it.
It said Mill Creek put it out. The Blu-ray is not that expensive.
Okay.
So
excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
This was still a fun episode.
Totally.
It's so much fun describing Savage Harbor to
you. Epic. I can't wait to see us Savage Harbor.
It's not the Savage Harbor. So yeah, as always, guys, thank you very much for listening. This is the Shameless Picture Show. We are here every other week. I don't know. I feel like I should do a better
usually, yeah. We're on Spotify, Stitcher Radio, Apple, iTunes, Pod Store,
and
what did I?
Google Play.
And Google Play.
I only know these because I'm the one who's in charge of putting them on there.
Like, comment, subscribe. We'll read your reviews on the air. We love the good and the bad ones. We love reading them both.
We haven't gotten one in a while, but this is a passion project for me and Nick. It's something that we started as a way to, frankly, watch a lot of the films that we've missed out on,
and to see each other.
Yeah, and to hang out, to get to talk, and we get to see so much cool stuff because of it. Like I don't know if I would have. I still don't know if I would have seen The Godfather had it not been for the show.
Yep.
So, as I said, we are the Shameless Picture Show. We hear every other week talking about stuff on our shame list, and if you're not down with that, I've got 2 words for you.
Watch movies.
Watch movies. Yeah, that was the best one yet.